Mercury, the messenger of the gods, the guy with all the news that's fit to print, the guy who has ideas, is going to be moving into the sign of Sagittarius right in time for election season, moving on November the 2nd into the sign of the United States of America's first house. Wow. And more importantly, he's going to spend a long, long time here in Sagittarius. In fact, he will be here through till January the 8th because of a retrogradation in this sign during the next 2 months. This does not bode well for an easy election result. I anticipate some difficulties there, but we'll get to that in a minute. In the meantime, what we see with Mercury's long stay in Sagittarius is something that's called a repeat of his elemental fire year. He did this back in 2017, November through January. And we're going to talk about how to compare notes to that year of 2017 in your life and the year of 2024. I'm also going to talk a bit about the Chiron trine. Chiron is playing a big role with Mercury in this particular 2 month stay in the fire sign of the Centaur. This is because Mercury, as he moves through Sagittarius, flows in a fire trine relationship 3 times to the asteroid Chiron, who is going to be sitting at the very same degree of the April 8th, 2024 total solar eclipse. So we'll talk about what that might mean for world politics, the United States election, and also your sign. When you listen for your sign today, you can listen for your sun sign, your moon sign, or your rising sign. Take your pick. All are good. Sun sign is purpose, career, moon, home, and mind and emotional comportment. And your ascendant is everything about you. It is your game playing avatar in this simulation called reality. So let's get rolling. If you're new, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac and the whole sign house system. Love those fixed stars and minor asteroids, which we'll talk about a couple of those today. Helps you time your best life and use astrology as a navigational tool. That's why we love astrology. I also bring Sabian symbols into the mix every now and then. And today, in my battered up book, all the books I love are in my description box, and I'm not even an affiliate for them. Sabian Symbol Screen of Prophecy by Diana E. Roche. We're going to talk about the degree of 19 where Chiron is sitting and the degree of 19 where Sagittarius Mercury will be traveling for both of those Sabian symbols, because it is on November the 19th, December the 2nd, and on December the 31st. Again, November the 19th, December the 2nd, and December 31st, that Mercury will make 3 beautiful fire trines to a place of wounding, the chironic wound that you have lived through and I have lived through since 2019, when Chiron ingressed into Aries. And this is a lesson we are all learning. It is a long lesson of 9 years in understanding a place in our sky, the whole signs place of our Aries sky, where we've been dealing with the healing of a wound. You know, for the world, of course, the wound is war. Aries is the sign of war. It's also the sign of noble firemen rushing in to save people in a building. It's also the sign of heroic captains landing a plane like Sully Sullenberger on the Hudson River. Mars can go the gamut from the noble warrior hero champion advocate to the one who causes wars or difficulties such as, mayhem and murders, etc. So we want to honor Mars in its full range of expression. But I will say, because Chiron is in the sign of war, Aries, we are looking at the world wars and the wounds of wars in the world since 2019. And that is encompassing Ukraine, Russia. It is encompassing the Middle East conflagration and there's many other places of war, both civil war and war between nations or occupied territories and nations. So where we're going to go today is a bit of world history to start off, and then we're going to talk about your sign. My brand is to do a little bit of mundane or world astrology every time I do a session here. If you don't like that kind of astrology, I get it. You can jump to your timestamps by clicking the title of the video. It's called your chapters. Or you can go into the pinned comments and you'll see that my assistant has timestamped the material. This timestamping doesn't work, however, for about 45 minutes after a live premiere, because it takes that long for YouTube to sync the timestamps. It's not the mistake of my assistant or me. All right, so those are a few thoughts. Now, I am recording this on October 31st. The veil is thin. If we hear knocking on my doors or windows, it's the spirits. But I also don't know what will be happening in the world before now. And you'll get this video on Sunday, which will be November the 3rd, because my schedule's a little behind these days. So if I don't have up-to-date information, it's because you're receiving this content, as it's recorded on October the 31st. We're going to look at Kamala Harris and Donald Trump's chart on the day of the election relative to this Mercury transit, because actually it's very important. For example, Kamala Harris stepped into her first house 60th year birthday in October. This is indeed what we call a first house profection age, not perfection, profection, and she is ruled by Mercury. Therefore, what Mercury is doing on election day will have import and meaning for her. Donald Trump, however, is in his 7th house profection age, ruled by Saturn, and what Saturn is doing in the sky on the election day will have import for him. I've already called it to be a Kamala win based on other videos I've put out, including my election panel with astrologers who did research into why they're saying what they're saying. And I put that content out already. And I know I got a lot of flack that some of my astrology panel people seem to be partisan. Well, I'm sorry, but it's still just the astrology. Whether they really want Kamala Harris to win or not, they're looking at the astrology. I'm a Canadian. I don't vote in the United States. I've never voted anywhere anyway. I'm pretty apolitical, although I'm changing as I get older because I get really pissed off with government tyrants, especially in my country of Canada. But don't worry, guys. You don't have to troll me. It's just astrology. I could be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong. And then I'll go back and look at what I misinterpreted in the astrology itself. Does that make sense? So we're going to start off by talking about the Sabian symbol. Then we're going to move into the sky chart. I'll show it to you. I'll briefly cover Kamala Harris, and I'll briefly cover storylines that have to do with Trump for election day, November the 5th. I'll also mention briefly a bit about some situations in the charts of other nations or people that involve the Sagittarius narrative. And one of those would be Nettanyahou, happens to be a Sagittarius rising. Joe Biden is a Sagittarius rising, and the United States of America is a Sagittarius rising using the silly chart. All right, so first of all, what about the Sabian symbols of 19 degrees of Aries, where Chiron is sitting because he's stationing to retrograde? He's been in, by the way, retrogradation. Chiron, the wounded healer, the maverick shaman, the mentor of healers and heroes. Chiron has been since July the 26th retrograde in Aries, and on December the 28th, will turn around into direct motion. That means that when I talked about November 19th, Mercury direct, right? Mercury direct trining a retrograde Saturn. December 2nd, Mercury retrograde trining a retrograde Chiron. Did I say Saturn? Sorry. November 19th, Mercury direct trining a retrograde Chiron. December 2nd, Mercury retrograde trining a retrograde Chiron. And then December 31st, Mercury is direct, trining a direct motion Chiron, who's stationed direct on the 28th, right? So only 3 days later, we see Mercury chiming in at the 19th degree where we had that eclipse. So basically, Chiron's at the 19th degree all through November and December. And so he's sitting on the degree of the 8th of April's total solar eclipse. He's still in that sky position, indicating things that Mercury may bring to bear have to do with the unfoldment of the April 8th eclipse in particular. So let's do this. Let's talk Sabian 19 degrees of Aries. Let's talk Sabian symbol 19 degrees of Sag. What could it be? And this is, by the way, channeled material from the 1930s by Elsie Wheeler. And I find this stuff extremely useful. My moon in the 3rd house is on the crystal ball gazer. I was a full-time clairvoyant psychic reader in my 30s, even talking to dead people. So this is the kind of thing you cannot make up. I used to teach a class called Awakening the Gypsy Within. I've had multiple crystal balls, and I didn't even know about the Sabians when I had this reading done in my 30s. It was by Carolyn Casey, who is into Sabians, and she alerted me to the Sabian on my moon. And I'm like, oh, you can't make this stuff up. That is so accurate. So here we have that. Now, For the Sabian symbols, we always round up by 1 degree. So when we look at the Sabian symbols, we're going to look at 19 degrees to begin with of the sign of Aries, and we round it up to 20. So Mercury at 20 degrees in the Sabian symbols of the sign of Mercury at 20 degrees of the sign of Aries is the following Sabian symbol. And we're going to say this is going to be how he's acting when he connects to Chiron. So Mercury, 19, round up to 20, Aries. And here's what we have, guys. We have this following delineation. A young girl feeding birds in the winter. A young girl feeding birds in the winter. Keyword hospitality. And theme is social conscience. So keywords that she gives us in the book, The Sabian Symbols by Diana E. Roche: helpfulness, generosity, giving, kindness, altruism, care, concern, social conscience, sympathy, and innocence. I like the social conscience part in our world today. Okay, so that's the vibe of the Sabian for that part of it. What about the Sabian for 20 degrees of Sagittarius? All right, Sagittarius 20 degrees, men cutting through ice. Wow, so we have the birds being fed in winter, and now we have men cutting through ice. A lot of winter stuff here, isn't there? Keyword procurement, theme, the grasshopper and the ants. Whoa. Keywords: preparation, long-range planning, foresight, group effort, resourcefulness, procurement, breaking the ice, and socializations. In the mimeograph 1931 version of this Sabian symbol, according to her, this was considered to be summer ice that would be needed for cooling purposes in the next season. What the hell is that? At the time this Sabian was channeled, ice boxes were being used to refrigerate and preserve food. Thus, there is implications here that thinking ahead and planning for the future is a critical factor in survival. Okay, so cutting through the ice, summer ice, is about procurement of that which we need to survive. Our opportunity for this Sabian symbol lies in our greatest advantage is in anticipating obstacles and planning ways to get around those obstacles before they arise. All right, preparations for survival, anyone? So let's go ahead and take a look at the sky. And I'm going to cover each sign separately, as I said. Here we go. But let's start off just briefly with the election story, and then we'll move to your sign. Oh, by the way, hang on, stop the share. I have these Otter bracelets that I love by Otter Spirit. This one is Moonstone, and Moonstone is good for intuition and the crown chakra. And if you're interested in being a Otter Spirit lover, and they give money to support otters in the wilderness and all of that, rehab of otters, this is not a bad idea because I love the bracelets. Moonstone is also good for certain signs, and I can't remember them because I can't find my piece of paper. I just wear it because I love it. They have zodiacally accurate gemstones, AAA quality. You get a 20% discount with my code Otter Spirit Jewelry. It's gorgeous stuff. I have just ordered some more for myself. So if you like that kind of thing, check it out. Here it is, Moonstone. They're little cards that they give you for every one of these. I am guided by grace. Comes in a really cool box. It's for Cancer, Libra, Virgo, and Scorpios. Although I love it, so I just wear it. And it is, yeah, I do have placements. I have my Neptune and Scorpio. Yes, I'm that generation. All right, let's go ahead and let's talk back to the sky right here. All right, here we have the sky. This is the transits. This is what we're talking about. The transit of Mercury into the sign. Oh, I'm in 2024, July. We'll just move us forward. There's a reason I was there. I won't even go into it. So here we have October the 28th, and you can see that Mercury will be moving forward out of the sign that he's been in, which is the sign before Sag, which is Scorpio. Here he is at 20 degrees Scorpio, and we're going to move him forward just so you can get the old visual here. And boom, here we have him crossing the barrier on November the 2nd right here. So now he's going to join Venus there for a short time. That's not too shabby, guys. When you have Mercury and Venus together in the sky, you have the vibe vibrational frequency of good news. So we have a kind of a good news, benefic news, positive news storyline on November the 2nd. That lasts until Venus leaves on November the 11th. So between November 2nd and 11th, there's a co-presence between Mercury and Venus, bringing a sense of good news, good vibe, good feeling. And this is the ascendant of the United States of America. It is a Sag rising. Therefore, I have a feeling that the first wave of this election will feel okay, even to the point where Pluto and Mars is no longer in a sign-based opposition as of November 4th. So what looks like a gnarly buildup becomes kind of muted or calmed out. That's not going to last. On November 19th, Pluto will enter into the sign of Leo and create a sign-based opposition between him and Pluto. I kind of have a feeling Mercury here in the sign of his detriment. Mercury in Sagittarius is in like feel-good mode, big vision. I have a dream, or big memes. If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room, or go big or go home. He's all like kind of motivational speaker, hey house, wisdom and knowledge, make your reality, fantastical stuff, and he's not detailed. He's in Jupiter's sign. The saving grace is he's in a mutual reception to Jupiter in his kingdom. So Mercury goes into Jupiter's Sagittarius kingdom and they trade places. They're house guests in each other's house, and therefore they are in a communications hotline to each other, which is giving this particular mutual reception, which can only happen once every 12 years, right? When Jupiter is in Mercury's sign of Gemini. This last happened June of 2012 to June of 2013. This kind of mutual reception is here. It's not so shabby, but it's still a Mercury who's prone to bombastic, fantastical, super cheerleady vibe. And this is the election. So it's possible with Venus here, of course, representing a female, and this is the ascendant of the United States of America, 12 degrees of Sag, that it's going to look like a Kamala win, and there's going to be a lot of celebration and big news stories about it on the first wave. But what happens as we go forward is a couple of things. Mercury will retrograde. He will station retrograde on November the 26th at 22 degrees of Sagittarius and go backwards over time, over the ascendant of the United States. It's almost like whoever wins the election, which I think this can look like Venus on the ascendant of the United States, it looks like a slam dunk, or it may be she wins by a margin, but then there has to be a recount, that kind of thing, because there's a retrogradation in the nation of the United States, its very own self, in an election year. The last time there was a long stay of Mercury here was back in November 6th, if I remember, of 2017 through to January of 2018. And of course, back then, we didn't have a USA election. So there's nothing to compare it to in terms of elections. But in your own life, please compare, because it was November the 6th of 2017 to January the 11th that you saw Mercury spend 2 whole months in the sign of Sagittarius, your sign, because of a contained retrograde in Sagittarius. There's going to be things that happen in your life. Then when we get to the other signs, I'll remind you of this, that you can compare notes on. All right. So there's the first thing. He moves forward. He retrogrades on the 26th at 22 degrees of Sag. If you are a Sag sun, moon, and rising, or Gemini sun, moon, and rising, or Virgo sun, moon, and rising, or Pisces sun, moon, and rising, and you have planets anywhere near this part of the sky that we're about to talk about, the retrograde placement, November the 26th, 22 degrees of Sag, this retrograde really impacts you. Also, it's noteworthy that there is a long shadow period for every Mercury retrograde. And I took my notes out. Where are they? We actually enter the Mercury retrograde shadow period on December the 15th. I think so. Yes. So we enter the retrograde shadow, like the pre-shadow of the retrograde, on December the 15th, and we don't leave the shadow till January 2nd, meaning it's all very much about Mercury traveling over places in the sky he's already traveled over the same degrees. So he does not, for example, Mercury, 0 degrees of Sag, will trine the north node of fate at 6 degrees here. And although he does do that, he does it but one time, and he does it on November the 6th. Then he doesn't go back to that position again, so we don't see it again. So the degree of his travels, the time and the degrees of his travels starting on December the, where's my notes? Starting on December the 15th is definitely a period of the retrograde shadow. So we'll look at that in a minute. I think that's 6 degrees of Sag. Let's go ahead and watch this little bugger moving forward here. No, I could have this wrong. So let me double check what it is. My notes are really scrawly. There's his retrograde station on November the 26th. Let me just grab my notes again. I have a better version of them, and just make sure we have this the retrograde station. Like we have the shadow period clearly written down. But before I do that, one thing I would say before I show you Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's chart, and then we do your sign, is that this retrograde shadow period isn't really about all your computers break down, your travel plans don't go well, although it could feel that way sometimes. It's really about the space that Mercury is going to travel back over, and themes in that time slot / degree space will be readdressed. So let me give you the exact dates of the shadow period. Okay, so yay, I'm going to just share a screenshot with you that might make it a little bit easier, and we'll just talk about the shadow retrograde period. I'll be doing a whole kind of more deep dive video in the actual retrogradation cycle, so stay tuned for that, because I'll be able to cover a lot more things to do with the minor asteroids, minor asteroids involved, and some of the stuff that might just be, worth investigating. So here we have it. Just took a little screenshot for us of the data, and hopefully you can see that. So on November 7th, Mercury will enter the retrograde zone at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. So obviously that's a powerful degree for everybody. We all will have, anybody with placements at 6 degrees Sag, a real feeling that this Mercury retrograde is also kind of clobbering us. I have my midheaven at 9 degrees of Sag, so I can really feel that's going to hit me in a big way. On November 25th, 2024, or 26th, okay, 6th, 7th of November, 25th, 26, it depends on your time zone. But on November 25th, 26th, Mercury stations and turns retrograde at 22 Sag. And on December 15th, you can screenshot this, Mercury stations and turns direct at 6 degrees of Sag. So that's why he's going back over the same territory. He goes all the way back to 6 degrees and goes forward again. And on January 2nd, 2025, he leaves the retrograde shadow zone. So that's when he's done traveling over the same territory of the 6 to 22 degrees of the sign of Sagittarius. So anyone planet 6 to 22 Sag, you're getting a lot of energy. Any planets in there at all from this whole back and forth Mercury retrograde narrative. Now, hopefully you had a chance to screenshot that. And let's go ahead and let's go back to the idea of the election. I don't want to spend too much time here. I know a lot of you prefer the all signs content. I just try to find a balance, because I know a lot of people came here because I saw the Donald Trump assassination and predicted it, that Walz would be the VP, that Biden would step down from the race. All of these things were predicted using astrology. And a lot of people found my channel in the summer while these predictions were coming true. So I do honor the people who like that kind of material. I even timed the assassination to within a week of when it happened. It's the Mars algol on his midheaven with Uranus. All right, for Trump back in the day. Back in July. All right, so here we have the sky, and let's just finish this story of Mercury, and let's look at Kamala, and let's look at Trump. Remember, Nettanyahou and Biden are also Sag rising. So anytime Mercury is going to go back and forth over the place of your ascendant degree, there's going to be a lot of back and forth changes of mind, changes of some kind going on, changes of communications stances on items for world leaders like Nettanyahou and Biden. It can be like changing agreements, changing your mind on what you said you'd do, changing your stance on something, communicating radical changes of ideology. Who knows what it could be? So, and then by the time we get to December 16th, we see Mercury is ready at 6 degrees to go forward. And remember how I talked about the node of fate? Well, he will try the North Node on November 6th, but at this point, no longer, because the nodes have moved on, right? Getting ready to move into our new axis of the sky. My video is out on that. Virgo Pisces axis, fate, nodes of fate for your sign. Please go look at my 2025 big deal playlist on the front page of my channel. All right, so there we go. And let's go ahead and just say it this way. The real focal point of the video today for everybody here is going to simply be the Mercury situation when he trines Chiron. That's what I'm covering for your sign, because it's taking you, see, Mercury, Chiron, it's taking you into a narrative that's older, that goes all the way back to 2019 and to the eclipse of April 8th of 2024, and healing something that has been stuck in the Aries whole sign house of your sky. People say, why do you say whole sign house? Because Placidus is going to screw you up. One sign, one house. It's the ancient tradition. In order to make effective delineations on YouTube, we act as if we're talking whole sign house anyway. That's why it won't make sense when you try to look at your Placidus chart. So if you don't know how to cast your chart in whole sign houses, look in my description box below. I have a free tutorial video. I have a meanings of the 12 houses PDF. I have my free Amazing Asteroids course. 5,000 people have taken it. Go to my description box below. Everything you need is there. Okay. It's all there. All right. Freebies galore. Everything about me, my channel, my Patreon community who gets this today, early access ad free with the blooper intact, October 31st. All right. Let's go ahead and say this is the story we're doing for your sign. What about Kamala Harris and what about Donald Trump? No matter which way we slice and dice it, his chart is weaker than hers. All right. That's all I'll say in terms of the election. I know that there's contrary information from sidereal or Vedic astrologers just telling you how it rolls out. Even in Zodiacal releasing, although he's coming into a peak period next year, he's not there yet. Donald Trump is not looking so hot on his particular markers for success. But I think something's going to happen, like a house divided, or I think there will be a sitting duck president. The president will not have control of, say, House and Senate or something like that. Now, here we have October 20th, 1964. Kamala is a Libra, around late degree, 27, 28 degree Libra sun. So is Nettanyahou, by the way, both the same placement. But in her birthday, she transitioned into the first house age ruled by Mercury, because her ascendant is here at 24 degrees of Gemini, and she's in the middle of a full-blown energetic intensity right now, as Jupiter has tried to approach her ascendant at 24 degrees. Okay, I don't have the ascendant in here. There's a reason, because I'm doing the other astrology, but we'll do it. So one thing, Jupiter was moving into direct motion through the sign of Gemini, and around October 10th retrograded, close to but not quite at around 20 degrees of Gemini. Kamala Harris's ascendant. Similarly, Donald Trump has his sun at 22 degrees of Gemini. And although Jupiter got within minutes of his sun, refrained and backed up, refrained from making direct partile or perfect conjunctions. This means both of these people have not been coronated properly. Something is going to disturb the final result. I do not know what, but they have not been fully blessed by Jupiter. I hear astrologers talking all the time about, oh, look at that. Trump has this and Kamala has that Jupiter thing. First of all, Jupiter's retrograde. That's not doing them anything good if it's almost at, but not quite at, and backing off their ascendants and then backing off their sun for trumping. So it's just not going to work. Something's wrong here. Something's wrong with the sky stories. Next. Okay. Why I'm concerned with Gemini, with Mercury in Sagittarius, is that Kamala Harris is a Gemini rising. This indicates that Mercury will be the ruler of her 60th age, 12, 24, right? 36, 48, 60, our first house ages. She's 60 years old. It is a powerful and very self-determining age, and it often involves escalation in home, career, and significant relationship matters. But if we were to put the actual sky into the mix, not Donald Trump, and by the way, they both have Mars in their natal chart in the sign of Leo, and Mars is also stationing retrograde. in Leo on December the 6th. So you see why I can, and their Mars returns would probably tell a whole story for each of them. So Kamala on the day of the election is what we're going to navigate to. All right. We're going to jump ourselves to election day, edit the chart. We're going to go to November the 5th, 2024. And here's election day on the outside wheel. And Mercury, the Lord of Kamala Harris's election day, right? Election day results is in the house of open enemies and in the sign of his exile or debility or detriment. Is this good or bad that Jupiter retrograde is in mutual reception? Well, it's not the worst situation, but nor is it the best situation. In essence, it could be problematic. And Mercury moving forward will come into a square to her Chiron, and just before the election is squaring her midheaven in the house of open enemies. So it is not an ideal place for the Lord of the age to be for her on the election day. And of course, eventually Mercury will move to 14 degrees post-election and give her a kind of vibe from the house of open enemies of a wound to her career, midheaven, and reputation. That said, eclipses are starting up through her 10th house next year in earnest. We had the early one, September 18th, 17th, 18th, indicating that she should have an increase of success, worldly success, North Node Rahu, eclipses through her 10th house. And historically, when eclipses happen in the 10th house of a candidate, they not only win the election, but they are going to be the president. But there's a lot of weird stuff going on in this election year. You'll notice as Mercury moves through the 7th house, election day and post-election, also comes into square to Uranus, Venus, Pluto, as Venus out of detriment, out of dignity in the sign of her fallen Venus, Pluto, dark secret, shadow material, toxic stories, betrayals, hidden secrets, Uranus, shocking secrets, Mercury, the guy with the news. It reminds me somehow, a bit of a grand cross for me here. It reminds me of the stuff that went on with Hillary Clinton in her emails, or Donald Trump and the grabbing of the PUSSY thingy comment. It's like almost like there's something that wants to burble up, that wants to disturb the narrative with some kind of sort of shock and awe, toxic, scary news stories, or something like that, Whew. And Venus is in the house of her open enemies, so that she doesn't get the benefit of Venus. Okay, that's not hers. It's the adversary, the opponent, the enemy. The other has a Venus transit, or Venus is there in that relationship to her chart on the south node of loss in her natal sky. So I don't know. Maybe it means her opponent loses. Maybe, or maybe it means something else. It's just the position of Mercury here in his square relationship to her ICMC axis and in detriment, all right, is not in the most ideal place. So we'll see what happens. I'm not sure exactly what it might look like, but I'm just pointing out it is not the strongest story for her to have this position, and also retrograde, right? So don't forget, November 26th, he retrogrades at 22 degrees of Sag. That's going to be right on her south node. Then he's going to come back again over, time. And by January 8th, he's finished the darn retrograde. Stations retrograde November 26th, 6th, direct on December 16th at 6 degrees of Sag. It's an ongoing cluster F of an election. Something is gnarly. I think she wins, but she doesn't win. But then there's a contest, and then there's some problems, or I don't know, or maybe it's just the Senate House version of a big win, say for Republicans, and then she wins the actual election. Or I don't know how this stuff is going to play out. It looks a lot like the 1877 election, where it was so close it was almost unable to call it. We have similar sky points to that, so it could be something going back to the 1877 story that has to do with Saturn and the nodes. So Now let's take a look at Donald Trump. I could go on and on about Kamala Harris, Saturn on Chiron, right? Retrograde Saturn on her Chironic wound in the house of career. Saturn will be going back over that. Saturn heads direct November the 15th after the election, and then travels over the Chironic wound in Kamala's chart. So it's not a clean win. What I'm trying to say, it's not like Yahoo. I don't think it's going to be clean. I don't think it's also just that if the Republican Party loses and Trump isn't the candidate, they're going to storm the Capitol. I don't think that's it. I don't think it's going to happen again. It's something else. It's some kind of like, I don't even know what it could be. I want to say scandal, post-election scandal, or disruptive variables that look scandalous. Okay, scandalous. Let's look at Donald Trump, shall we? And then we're going to go ahead and do your sign on the long version of Mercury, not seen since fall of 2017. Elemental fire year, journey through the sign of Sag. Let's put in Donald Trump, who is a Leo rising, with his Leo rising on fixed star Regulus, little king, born to rule, power and glory. There we go. And he's also got the sun god Apollo asteroid on his ascendant. All right, he's got a lot going on there. He's also got the asteroid America on his ascendant at birth. That's America right there. I didn't have Apollo in here. So it's a pretty intense sky for him. He's going to go through that Mercury station retrograde on December the 6th, pretty darn close to his Pluto. So a lot goes on for him as well. So here we have a story of election day. I'm only doing it because what's Mercury up to? Mercury's the ballot guy. All right. When we had a Mercury station director retrograde on the insurrection election, that was what happened. We had all this kerfuffle about the election. So here we have the outside wheel. And we can notice that on election day, on the outside wheel, here are where the transiting planets are going to fall. So first of all, we notice that Mercury being the messenger, but also the information, the news, who won, the guy is in charge of collecting ballots and processing ballots, all this kind of detail work. Mercury doesn't have his detailed hat on. For Donald Trump, Mercury is sitting in Donald Trump's fifth house, yes, with Venus until November 11th. If there's a big kerfuffle about the election, I wonder how long it takes for it to become disastrous. Could be like, we're waiting for November 19th, actually, when Pluto goes into a Leo place and is in a sign-based opposition. That's when things get really difficult, like literally November 19th through to like April. There's a sign-based opposition between Pluto in Mars in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius. All right, so this is for Donald Trump, his fifth house. And this is like not a bad place because it's a house of wins and losses, right? It's competitive. It's athletic competitive. It's winning and losing. It's speculative or gaming type events, that kind of thing, taking a risk, taking a bet, win or lose. But also, remember how Venus for Kamala Harris was sitting on her south node? You'll notice it's sitting on Donald's as well. That's because they're both born with the same nodal axis. And therefore, it's just a thing that Venus is doing, is sitting on each of their nodes of fate. But for Donald Trump, this is not his house of open enemies. He is, and you can see that Mercury here, if we're looking for difficult Mercury stories, in particular on election day, that are really hard. The square houses here and here and here, all right, are where we have to look. There is nothing very tightly active on the election day. There is a broad square to Saturn in the 8th house of death. Okay. Mercury square Saturn in the 8th house of death, and there's Saturn, but that's not his natal sky. That's just what's happening in the real-time sky. His natal 8th house and his natal 2nd house receive no particular gnarly stuff from Mercury moving through Sagittarius. Those are his money houses, by the way. His 11th house, where his sun is, this is his house of worldly success, popular with the people, a celebrity, and all of that, will receive some attention from Mercury. Yes, Mercury will be traveling all the way through to the 26th degree and will retrograde there. So on November 26th, we'll see Mercury opposite Donald Trump's Uranus, North Node and Sun, and going retrograde. So the opposition is there, but tempered by that Jupiter mutual reception in the real-time sky. Jupiter does not move direct till February the 4th, indicating whatever Jupiter is up to in terms of blessing Kamala Harris or Trump by traveling over their sun and or ascendant. It's like Jupiter's not doing a super coronation until after February 4th. Oh, what about Inauguration Day? What could that mean? Last thing for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is ruled by Saturn. He's in his 7th house profection age, right? So He's 78 years old. Is that correct? Yes. 72, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 78 years old, Donald Trump, seventh house, profection age, ruled by Saturn. It is not auspicious in an election year to be ruled by a planet that falls into the eighth house of death, of rebirth, of financial difficulty in financial matters. So that doesn't bode well at all. And it not only is the Lord of the age in the deep darks of the eighth house, which is not about winning and being on top of the game, but it's also retrograde. So the Lord, the profection Lord of his age, is in rough shape. When he turned his birthday age, right, Gemini, in the month of June, you could literally take his chart and do this. If you don't mind following my cursor, I'll show you what I mean. Can I clear that? Let's teach you a little class here. So in the month of June, he steps into this part of the chart. This is June. This is July. Look, he was almost killed. Saturn, the Lord of death and time, and Grim Reaper, Lord of karma, in the house of death. Okay. So this is June, and this is July when he was shot at. This is August. This is September. This is October. And now he's out there stumping and pumping and going to Joe Rogan and stuff like that. He's on a charade of celebrity and media outlets and stuff. And that's very 11th house stuff, which trines the third house of the media. So he's doing a media charade or a media blitz right now. And that makes sense. He's doing the right thing before an election, right? That's what you should be doing. I find it interesting. He's going on all these shows, and Kamala won't go on Joe Rogan or whatever. She just can't go unscripted. I know, troll me, but she definitely needs a script. I'm not saying when Donald's off script, by the way, that he's any better. Then he's just mumbling and babbling all over the place. But both of them are not what we call natural speakers. And so this is him, and this here. Okay, guys, come on, the 12th house age. Are you kidding me? The 12th house of his chart for the month of November. This is Donald Trump's profected month of November from over here, his seventh house age. Again, June, July, August, September, October, November. Well, it's a house of jails, prisons, hospitals, right? He's got a Saturn and a sign of his exile with Mercury and Venus back here. It is a weak house for his win. It does not bode well for a win. It's ruled by his natal moon in the fifth house. Again, not really a house about being at the top of the sky. And at the time of election day, it is on November the 5th as well, a lunation in the real-time sky that is in the sign of the moon's detriment. The moon is exiled in Capricorn in his sixth house of bad fortune. Bad fortune. Yep. So the lunation in its Capricorn exile in his house of bad fortune on the day of the election, co-present with Pluto and Heretic 29 on an axis of difficulty and karmic debt as well, but also just simply the house of bad fortune, the sixth house opposite his 12th house, age, month, right? He's in the month of November. He's ruled by the moon. He's in the 12th house. It's not a good look, not a good look. So that's it. I was just using the whole Mercury thing to show you a little of election day forecasting yet again. Now we're going to move away from my last video on the election. I did a lot of stuff already, but my election panel is my definitive. I looked at the solar returns for both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And then my guests looked at other patterns. I had S.J. Anderson on and AstroCuties, Rena. Both of them had original research and deep dives to listen to. And I also had a Norman Tarot reader, Erica Robinson, do the cards. The consensus was Kamala will win. But I still say everything that's happening is not simple. There is no way this is just like, yay, and that's done. And what the hell, we're all over. No, not with the Mars-Pluto opposition, not with the retrogradation of Mercury in the sign of Sag. Nettanyahou, Biden, and the United States are changing their mind, changing stance, going back and forth, wobbling and waffling all over the place with a Mercury retrograde. Let's do your sign. Remember, you're going to go back to 2017 because that was when we had Mercury in Aries. That was in the spring, April, May, and then in the summer, July, August, and then November, December, Mercury spent Aries, Leo, and Sag 2 months in those signs because of retrogradation. And in Gary Caton's work, the expert astrologer on Mercury, that's called an elemental fire year. A lot of what 2024 is like for you is like it was back in 2017. So let's talk about your sign, how Chiron is trying to work with Mercury to bring some healing. I'll remind you of those dates again. I will put those up. And we'll also talk about a little bit about how this is a fire sign, fire year, last gasp by Mercury to finish up the elemental fire year stories for you in the Sagittarius part of the sky. So we're going to start with Aries. We're going to go for about 5 minutes for each sign if you're trying to calculate how long we'll be here. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I totally forgot to introduce you to my 2025 All Signs pre-sale. It is coming. It is out. It ends November the 15th. Oh my goodness gracious. Or maybe I'll mention it for each sign so that I have a chance to tell you guys about it. But I've already had it out for a couple months, a month, and you can only get this price by November 15th. Otherwise, it's going to go up. And I'm producing the content, and it's available for you on the 17th when I email it to you as 2-hour videos and a PDF format guidebook. Alrighty, for each sign or buy the bundle. I'll put the link in the description box and pin it to the comments. All right, so let's start with Aries and let's roll. Now, remember, we're talking about going back, guys. Everyone, travel and time. Aries, sun, moon, and rising. And don't forget, my 2025 All Sign Bundle pre-sale is on sale till November 15th, and individual signs as well. Please check my description box below for details. It won't be back again at this price. 2-hour videos each. No, let's go ahead. Aries, sun, moon, and rising. The first thing you got to figure out here with this Mercury transit is it is fire trining you. So like, don't worry too much about it. Yes, there's retrogradation. Yes, it goes back and forth. Yes, it's in the 9th house of foreign lands, foreign shores, third marriages, higher education, and all of that. Skills-based, teachers, universities, professors, campuses and colleges, Lakshmi, a luck house. It's useful for you to go back to, because this transit of Mercury through this part of your sky does take you back, all the way back, if you want to go that far back, to 2017 and November through to January of 2018. What were you doing? Because it is back again. As I mentioned in the intro, this is a duration of November 2nd to January 8th, including the retrograde. We'll be covering more details about that, of course, in the retrograde video that comes out this month in November. But what I would say to you is that if you go back to what you were doing back then, you'll have clues. Like I went off to Mexico, to Troncones Guerrero province, and had this mystical experience because Mercury's in the house of foreign travel, but also the house of God. So foreign lands, foreign travel, foreign shores, dharma, deep alignment with purpose, profound connections to your spiritual philosophy, and revisions of them. Because as Mercury goes back and forth, you make changes. You can revise what you're doing and change your mind about it. It's also good for publications and book publishing and podcasting, but the retrograde indicates revisions as he's also flowing, and this is the house of a sibling too older, as well as a third marriage environment, third long-term committed love, and there's lots of changes going on in the relationship to a sibling too older, maybe, or in the context of traveling, a lot of traveling. Mercury loves to travel, and that's, again, you could be doing a lot of travel, and that's just fine. November 2 to January 8th, or you might be, going off to university or college, or really killing it in your essays at university, because Mercury's the mind and the communicator here. Now, what happens is he's going to in a trine to Chiron November 19th. That's what we're set up for here. Then again on December 2nd, and then on December 31st. This Mercury trining Chiron is reactivating the eclipse energies where Chiron sits of April the 8th. And it's almost like you're going to have a kind of way of beginning to target your own healing of chironic wounds in the house of your identity, how you look, how you feel about being you, your sort of character feels wounded, you have an existential wound about life, a crisis of meaning. Chiron's wounding the character of Aries. Of course, Aries sun, career, Aries moon, your home wounds, but it's just a wound for Aries since 2019. Because that eclipse with conjunct Chiron happened exactly at 19 degrees, there is a profound healing going on about a chironic wound since 2019 that's going to be in play to heal it and to kind of release it for good. We only have Chiron here for a couple of more years. So this is important for you to realize it's time to let go of that wound. Sure, if you're born with Chiron and Aries, you're having a Chiron return since 2019. Those are people who are like 49 to 52 or so, and you're healing the Chironic wound that you were born with. Okay. And wherever that Chironic wound sits in the house of you, that's where the wound is being healed, which house Chiron sits in the 12 whole sign houses of your natal chart. I want you to really think about, I'm going to go with this story, the 1, 2, 3 punch, right? First, Mercury on November 19th touches down with Chiron, but Mercury is moving direct. So news can come to you through phone calls, text messages, or emails from far off foreign shores, foreign people, foreign places, book publishing deals, agents, editors, people in that environment, things to do top of the sky with your legal court matters, judges, and communications. And that includes all the things I just mentioned every day, emails, phone calls, text messages, letters in your old-fashioned mailbox. But then on December 2nd, now it's all happening again, retrograde. What could it mean? Well, we'll find out. But a Mercury retrograde is not so much about the mailbox. Sometimes people from your past can come to you, though. Sometimes you may have, intersections through communications with people you've known before. But these are, excuse my hiccups, these are people that are ninth house people, mentors, guides, teachers, gurus, pastors, preachers, human resource departments at corporations, old professors, and some kind of intersection communication around December 2nd. And then finally on December 31st. Now, not only is Mercury direct, but so is Chiron. So you're no longer lingering in the past, and the wounds are like moving on. And because of the eclipse, it's a big change. It's a big total solar eclipse of a healing of a wound in the house of your identity. And because your identity house is always looking across at the significant other house, the marriage partner, the business partner, the audience, you're healing the wound with those people as well. Because as you heal your own internal wound, the relationship dynamic with you and those people is healed and transformed and changed as well. South Node in that part of your sky is asking you to surrender and release those relationships that are no longer true or right for you, or never will be. But also, if you're single, it can bring in destined karmic love as well. So there's that story. But certainly healing a Chironic wound in the first house can help you heal the wounds of self and other, and how you relate to those others in your life in any significant way. All right, hopefully that's useful for you, Aries. Let's move into the Taurus sun, moon, and rising. So first of all, reminding you of the basics, Mercury. Oh, and don't forget my 2025 All Signs Bundle individual videos up to 2 hours each is for sale now on my pre-sale. It ends November 5th, which is why I'm cramming this in here. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, if you click the link, you'll find out more. And it's delivered to you November 17th. This is a forecast for all signs. Okay, let's get going. Mercury is moving in the sign of your 8th house. This is a house of death, rebirth, occult mysteries, secrets, a chunky money. And as Mercury is moving through this 8th house where you have shared resources with other people, he's moving through here on the 2nd of November all the way through January 8th. And this is where you may be doing revisions here. Like, this is literally like changing your tax structures or negotiating money from royalty income or severance packages, bonus sign-ons, stock investments. Now, Mercury, the god of the markets, is here. You might go back into the stock market, sell a stock, buy a stock, whatever you have to do. But it is involving also inheritances. And so Mercury here can be very much about information or news that you may be inheriting some money. And so he's here for a long time. It's 2 whole months. What happened in 2017? Did you get any inheritance money? I can tell you my Taurus sun daughter got money from her grandma, and I gave that money to her around that transit time. You might be finding yourself in situations where money that is, not earned, Mercury can deliver the news of its pending forthcoming delivery to you. In fact, when I remember it for my daughter, she got news that the money would come to her when she turned 18, which is a few months from when this transit happened. And she was asking me for it desperately. This story is also really much about the mind, and Mercury is also the occultist and the magician in this house. He's the advisor to the in Hermicus Maternus, Mercury here is like the sage-like astrologer priest to the king. So it could open up your doors of perception. And when you open these doors of perception during this Mercury transit, he's also trying to heal a chironic wound that you have been dealing with since 2019 in the Aries part of your sky. This is a wound that has a lot to do with the themes of addictions, self-undoing, self-sabotage, those sorts of ways that you are the worst enemy for your very own self. It also, the 12th house has to do with international revenue generated from foreign shores, foreign lands, foreign people, including international digital income and payment processors. So being able to receive monies from abroad into the 12th house matter, and maybe also things to do with your spiritual life. Full houses 8 and 12 are spiritual liberation or moksha energy, and you might have some spiritual insights and deep dives of dreams and information from your dream life as Mercury spends 2 months in Sagittarius. Again, compare this to November of 17 to January 2018. You're in the same kind of sky. Now, Mercury here is also finally doing a 3-pass heal. Punch 1, November 19th. He's going to probably give you phone calls, texts, emails, messages about inheritance, calls from your accountant, a stock information moment or a stock changing direction on you. December the 2nd, it happens again. We're going to see something going on December the 2nd at 19 degrees, both planets. But now we have both of them retrograde, a deep dive into the past. You may indeed hear from people you haven't heard from before, but with the 8th house, these are like people that are monetary. You know, like they might be your accountant or your tax person or the CRA in Canada or the IRA guys, some information from people from the past and those kinds of monies, or your stockbroker you haven't heard from in years, or a retrenchment or reversal in the direction of a stock investment. So be careful for that, December 2nd. And then on December 31st, there's a forward momentum, and Mercury going direct, talking to Chiron, will really want to heal some kind of long-term spiritual stick in your mud, something that's really been holding you back with that Chiron transit, to do with wounds, to do with, your spiritual life, your addictions, your self-undoing, your bad habits, your patterns. Maybe you've been feeling wounded because you've been feeling isolated and alone. There's isolation in the 12th house, and Chiron may have made you feel lonely and isolated since 2019. And now you can, from a deep soul work perspective, turn this around and finally look in the rearview mirror at it beginning on December 31st. As this last trine between these two planets occurs. For you, please pay attention to your dreams. This is a very powerful axis of this chart that can bring you to profound insights from the dream messenger himself, Mercury. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, this is a time in which on November the 2nd to January 8th, Mercury travels for 2 months in your 7th house, just like he did November of 2017 to January 2018. And this is a comparison for you. By the way, my Sky Reader's for sale right now. Pre-sale price ends November 15th. That's 2-hour videos for each sign and a PDF guidebook. Check it out in my description box below. You won't get this price again. Now, Mercury. Mercury's the messenger. He's a promoter and sales guy. So I'm going to promote and sell through every one of these videos. Mercury in Sagittarius in your 7th house is about significant long-term love relationships. That's what it is. Mostly. Some of you have business partners there. Some of you have clients, marketplace audiences that you deliver your 10th house wares to. But for the most part, this is how your relationship with other people is going to be impacted. And if he's retrograde, you might hear from the long-term committed spouse or monogamous relationship person from your past, phone, emails, phone calls, text messages. This is Mercury retrograde in Sag, and it's going to be a humdinger because it's going to be here for 2 months. So there could be a swath of exes getting in touch with you during this transit. But what I want to focus on today is the healing that Mercury provides as he trines the chironic wound on November 19th, December 2nd, and December 31st. This is a chironic wound in Aries that you have been dealing with ever since 2019. It may have made you feel alone, like the outsider, an outcast amongst your friends or social groups. You might felt wounded in the way your career gains have emerged or not emerged, or in how you have a wound around some of your long-range goals, beliefs, and dreams and hopes for your life. And if there is this kind of wound that you're experiencing with the Chironic story, Mercury has got his fingers in the mix. And so look for phone calls, text messages, emails, legal agreements, and contracts. That's another seventh house thing. That Mercury is up to in your seventh house, flowing to your 11th. It could be so many different things. The 11th house is also friends, allies, and benefactors. And you may have some news from a good friend or an elder sibling that really is like, wow, this speaks to me. This is really healing something. Thank you for that good friend or that elder sibling one above you for this conversation, phone call, text. Any of these times could count. November 19th, December 2nd, December 31st. Give a few days. It's a one long Chironic healing of the 11th house matters. And with the North Node there, you're really focused on that. That's where the eclipse was April the 8th. And this is like April 8th eclipse doesn't wind down to March of next year. So you're still in the thick of what new beginnings and portal of completion and beginnings wants to happen, and how you approach your long range goals, your career gains and earnings, your influence over groups, your groups of belonging, and your friendship circles. Okay. I've been feeling the Chironic wound here. I have a progressed sun in Gemini, and I've never felt more outside my friendship circles. I'll tell you so many reasons, including the unsafe, ineffective protocols during the pandemic. Okay. Yeah, so I did not participate at all, and I was banned from any kind of social place. Canada was one of the strictest countries in the world. I couldn't even travel in my own country. Yeah, it was crazy. Thank God Trudeau will be unelected. Sorry if you're a Trudeau lover in my audience, but I am certainly not. Okay, Cancer, don't forget my 2025 All Signs bundle is out for pre-sale, and it'll be delivered to your inbox November 17th. You don't want to miss that price. It'll never come back again, or get your individual sign. Those are 2-hour-long videos for each sign. It's my Tell Me Your Best Life version of guidance for your sign in the calendar year of 25. In the sky, you're going to see Mercury, Cancer people, sun, moon, and rising. See Mercury moving through your 6th house for 2 months. This is November 2nd to November 8th, just like he did in November of 2017 to January of 2018. So you could compare your life to what was going on then. This is the house of pets, rentals, debts, the house of work, job, employer-employee relationships, also the house that connects you to your health matters. Think about all of those themes back in the day. What was going on here? My Cancer rising sister tendered her resignation from her nursing job. I believe that was the time frame. I think she was out of there by 2018. So you might look at this as to do with what is it you're doing in the work environment. If Mercury retrogrades here, which of course he does, November 26th, right, to December 16th, I mean, you're going to hear from people from the past. You're going to hear from old colleagues and coworkers for sure, maybe old landlords as well, or old tenants. But let's go ahead and take another angle on this. What about the Chironic healing? The Chironic healing is important. You want to heal a wound around your job, your career, your reputation. It's 10th house matters. And Mercury is like, we got this. This could be an opportunity for a dream job through some of this, or to release yourself from the work that no longer works for you. And because he does 3 passes, November 19th, December 2nd, and December 31st to 19-degree Chiron, sitting at the place of the April eclipse, a lot of you are having a massive change of career direction as a result of this energy. And look to see if there was career changes, I'm sure, back in 2017 into 18. This is a whole different ballgame. We had an eclipse up here. So there's a massive magnitude, Richter scale difference of career changes, work changes for you Cancers. Okay, there's no two ways about it. With the South Node in the 4th house, some of you may choose to move and change your career off of this dynamic energy in the sky at this time. Certainly one thing to think about is pets. Pets belong to the 6th house. And, news about pets can be in this thing, Chironic healing of a woundedness around the love of an animal, the loss of a pet, just because you have the South Node going through the house of home, loss in the home, Mercury spending so much time in the house of pets. I'm not predicting your young puppies in trouble, but Mercury square Saturn. Saturn represents anything in the word elder. So an old pet maybe not doing so well, right? Jupiter in the house of hospitals. You have to take your pet to the vet kind of thing. Sorry to say. This is all possible in the next 2 months during this Mercury transit through the 6th house. All right, Leo, sun, moon, and rising. A quick promo for me because Mercury's in Sag. You have my 2025 videos already on November 17th. The pre-sale price is here until November 15th, and you'll get up to 2 hours per sign. If you want to get that content, check the description box below or the pinned comments. Now, listen, Leo, listen, this is good for you. Okay. It's good for anybody who gets fire trined up on this stuff. It's like hooch or something. You don't mind it. Sagittarius don't mind it. Aries don't mind it. And the Leos don't mind it. So you're kind of like right in it and you're okay with it. Mercury is going to spend a whole 2 months, November the 2nd to January 8th in your 5th house. And that is your house of play. Joy and fun and pleasure and enthusiasm and inspiration and vital life force and childlike wonder and innocence and awe. It's fertility, creativity, procreativity, entrepreneurial business, creative projects that you create. It's romance. And Mercury will definitely bring old romantic sexual partners back to you through email, phone calls, and text messages. Guaranteed that sometime between November 26th and December 6th in the retrograde cycle, December 16th, you're going to hear from some of these people. I can't see how you won't. So get ready for those contacts from the past. The ghosts of the past come back. But we're not talking really about the retrograde. In essence, we're talking about the Chironic trine. And with Mercury continually in a great deal of flow, all right, throughout November 19th, December 2, and December 31st, he is in a state of flow to the Chironic wound that you've been dealing up since 2019 in the 9th house of God. For some of you, this is a spiritual crisis time. You've been going through a deflation in your faith, your religion, what you believe to be true, your dharma, the meaning and purpose of your life has felt frail, maybe even a wounded relationship with a wounded father figure. Also, Chiron here could be about wounds regarding long distance foreign travel, wounds regarding or feeling wounded or outcast or lost about things to do with legal and court situations that involve judges and juries. These are, or even wounded about higher education and the pursuit of college and university like educational opportunities. Now, Mercury is working to heal things that the eclipse of April 8th is really triggered for a year after that April 8th total solar eclipse. You're dealing with the blasting out of the your reality, this Chironic wound. And Mercury wants to do it in the 5th house. Now, it could be a healing of a romantic wound by meeting a love partner from a foreign place or on a trip. For sure, that could happen here. It could also, though, be like a creative project that you have gets a book publishing deal, or that your playful fun and innocence and joy is going to be enlivened by some healing of a relationship with a father figure. Or this is the Lakshmi house. Have you felt unlucky and full of unluckness since 2019? Well, Mercury's in the house of good fortune where luck exists as well. So it feels like you could have lucky strikes on November 19th, December 2, and December 31st that makes you think the universe has got your back. You're not alone in this gig after all. But again, the retrogrades, especially Chironic wound healing through retrograde Mercury on December 2, could look like hearing from some love in the past, some relationship in the past, maybe with someone in a different culture, ethnicity, language, skin color, phenotype. Those are 9th house features. And that you can heal that relationship by having that return to a conversation. And that can heal so much more for you that you didn't even know that had been lingering as an unresolved romantic pain. Also, any disconnection from your children that can be healed, or your grandchildren can be healed during this transit. And it's just like 2017 to November 17 to January 2018, except that we've had an eclipse with the North Node where Chiron sits, giving it a whole new meaning. Not nearly the same because of that. I'm taking out all of the ascendant, descendant. I forgot that it was still there. Yeah, me. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. This guy says you're going to go through 2 months with Mercury in the house of home, property, land, real estate. You did this same thing back in 2017. So I want you to time travel back in your imagination and what was happening then. This would have been November of 17 until January of 2018. If you can go back and remember what you were doing then, you're going to find similar themes are occurring. And this is different because we also have such a profound and intense activation of the Aries space where Chiron is sitting and Mercury is trining because we had eclipses in Aries. So let's break it down. First of all, just having Mercury in the fourth house for 2 months, including the retrogradation on November 26th to December 16th, can mean that matters to do with your mother, your childhood, your people you knew as a child that you lived with can come back to you as phone calls, texts, and emails, text messages and emails, information from the childhood, like relics and a box of memorabilia or messages from your siblings or your parents can be so important to you during this time. Mercury's transit here can also have to do with places you've lived in the past because he'll retrograde and them returning to you, not necessarily physically returning to you, although anything is possible. You could travel. Mercury's a protector of travelers. You may travel back to a place that you've lived before, go back to the home, the homeland, or the hometown at any point, but certainly during the retrograde, again, it's all possible. The trine to Chiron is what's most important. The trine to Chiron flows, Mercury flows to that eighth house of secrets, that eighth house of hidden things. This could be family secrets, Mercury spills them, being revealed during this transit. Money from your family of origin. So what I mean is inheritance money, legacy wealth money is a part of the fourth house. Mercury in this position may be delivering news about inheritances, information about inheritances. You know what I mean? Like you get a call from a barrister or a lawyer saying, well, this is the situation with the inheritance money, or you need to sign a trust, what do you call it? Living trust document. Things like that can be very much what Mercury, the negotiator, is doing in the house of legacy wealth. Sorry, guys, I have an itchy back. And I kind of get to the idea here that Mercury rules negotiations and marketing, and selling and marketing a house connecting to the North Node eclipse in the eighth house can be it's time to sell a property. It's time to let a home go. It's time to divest of it or to buy a new one. And Mercury is the negotiator, and you're going back and forth over selling and buying real estate and property. One last feature here. This is your home and domestic life. There may be a lot of back and forth conversation going on between you and somebody you live with during the next 2 months. But because the money of the eighth house is also what you share with your long-term significant romantic love partner that you may or may not live with, but if you live with that person, then this can be a lot of conversations and wounds around how that money is shared between you and that other person, and some frank discussions to heal a wound that you've been feeling since 2019 around the money that you should have in a marriage type relationship and how we're shared or not sharing those resources with the one you're with, or regarding inheritance monies as well. Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. So if you have to time travel back, you should, to November 2017 to January of 2018. This is the last time you saw this transit of Mercury in a fire sign for 2 months, Sag, during an elemental fire year. I talked about that in my beginning. Don't forget my 2025 All Signs videos are for sale, pre-sale price until November 15th. Never see that price again. Check my description box below if you want 2 hours of content for your sign, delineating your year ahead. You won't get this ever on YouTube. It's private sale. So Mercury, your third house is a real important place in a way, in a sense that you don't mind this transit, it sextiles you, but it's a writing house, a social media house, a communication house, a local neighbors and neighborhood house, the daily everyday world in which you swim, you know, the gym, the coffee shop, driving and commuting as well. Could be a lot of commuting going on here because Mercury will be here in this sign for 2 months, November 2nd to January 8th. Are you driving all over the place? Are you on the highways? Are you busy traveling, even just travel? But that would be more domestic or continental travel. A lot of travel, a lot of driving, a lot of moving around. This is all possible, but great for writing projects and revisions. Mercury can also represent getting an agent for a writing deal because Jupiter's in the house of publications. So there's that too. And when Mercury's down here, conversations and emails and phone calls are really important. And he's going to retrograde from the house of eight, you know, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, neighbors, and younger siblings, and younger sibling and younger siblings in general. And it could be a lot of all of a sudden a flurry of communication here. There's a healing of a chironic wound, which is the most important thing. Have you felt wounded since 2019 in your audience marketplace outreach, in your significant business partnerships and alliances, in your long-term committed love alliances? Even if you don't have somebody, have you been dealing with a wound about being in a long-term relationship? So these are the things that you want to heal. The eclipse of April the 8th is trying to blast that wound out of this orbit and out to outer space and get rid of it forever. Chiron and Mercury are following through on the dates of November 19th, December 2nd, and December 31st. Take those 3 dates, give them a few days on either side, and see if you can't find a 3-part story about one theme. And the theme is, I am ending the wound I have around my commitment to long-term love, to how I serve my audience and marketplace, and to which people are my true partners in life and in business. And because the third house is communicating, emailing, phone calling, writing, Zoom calls, social media, a lot of that energy is where you're spending your time to continually heal the 7th house wound. You may have a change of ideas and you may revise a writing project. Those are Mercury retrograde narratives as well. Keep that in mind. We'll be doing a whole video specifically on the retrogradation cycle later in the month. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. The sky says Mercury is going to spend 2 months in your 2nd house of money, earnings, possessions, and resources. Also food style, how you eat and what you eat. So think about it this way. Now I'm going to turn the heat down. I cannot get it right here. I'm hot and I'm cold. I'm in and I'm out. Sounds like Mercury retrograde. Up and my down, in and my out. I'm back. That's Katy Perry sung badly. Look, Scorpio. Bottom line. Mercury wants you to make some revisions to your financial situation. That's because he's going to retrograde there. Yeah. Retrograde November 26th to December the 16th. But on the meantime, or your food style, time to go back and change your diet again. Or get rid of an addiction with the South Node in your 8th house. Quit the vape, quit the cigarettes, quit the nicotine, quit the weed, quit the wine. Okay. That's your story. Mercury's going to help you do it. New ideas about how to do it. Okay. So Mercury is in a flow to Chiron at 19 degrees, where that eclipse occurred on April the 8th, 2024. A detonation of a Richter scale like 5 or a class X hurricane of change is trying to happen in the workhouse. This is the workaday world, the employer-employee, the job, not the career ambition, the job. This is your rental situation and tenancy agreements, whether you're the landlord or the leasee. This is things to do with pets. This is things to do with physical debts. You owe money to people, karmic debts. Have you had to pay some difficult debts off, literally, that were really difficult karmically or in real money terms? I know a Scorpio had to pay a family debt, and it was excruciating to see that family member of mine have to pay off that debt because I didn't think it was a fair debt. I won't go into it. So you Scorpios have been looking at karmic debt, real life debt, indebtedness, and Chiron's been making you feel wounded there since 2019. Don't forget rental property wounds, pet wounds, job wounds, like you may not feel like the service you're doing is the right service. That's the house of service. Health wounds, you have health challenges. Some of you may have been going through health challenges. This is a place of health, the house of sickness, and Chiron is the healer, but it's also a wound, right? So now we can say that maybe what you should pay attention to are these three dates, because this is just like 2017 November to January 2018, the last time Sagittarius Mercury spent 2 months here in the second house of earnings. Look back to some changes in your money, earnings, debt situations, or just earnings and money and possessions and food stuff. And on November the 19th, on December the 2nd, on December the 31st, Mercury is going to talk 3 times to Chiron and attempt to heal once and for all this wound around work and money and work. That's mostly it, or health and food style. All right, those are the main themes. Mercury likes to give information and news. And so look for like what you come across. It might be informing you of what needs to change. Jupiter does rule that second house, and he is in the 8th house. And for you, I'll just say, you look like you're ready for an inheritance or some massive chunk of money from you or a spouse's family in the next year, by next June, if you haven't gotten it already since May. So there could be a financial reward coming for you in some way, some kind of financial healing that Mercury and Chiron are trying to do, so you can get out of a dead end job or get out of a place that's draining you energetically, or your health is a challenge and you have the financial means to remedy it. So those are some awesome ways this may play out. Sagittarius, we're in the last 4 signs. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. First of all, number 1, numero uno. It's all about you. It's all about you. Sagittarius, Mercury, you're changing your mind. You're changing your ideas. You're having new ideas. Old ideas are coming back to you from the past. You're communicating to people from your past. This is all the story of this 2-month transit, because it includes a retrograde. The past rears up November 26th to December 16th. You could compare this to back in the fall, November of 2017 to January of 2018. You were back in the same energy field. So you can want to see what were you doing back then to do with these themes I've just outlined for you. Mercury wants to help you heal something that has been unresolved about romantic love, sexuality, your own children, fertility, entrepreneurial and creative business projects. And the Chironic wound at 19 degrees Chiron, where we had the eclipse of April the 8th, is continually reminding you this is an end of the story. We must detonate it, to destroy it, to end it, to push through it, to evaporate it, something like that. Now, Chiron in this part of your sky since 2019 meant you did all of the things I just mentioned, just felt like something's off. You could have been the outcast, in your romantic life, or, you have a sex life, but there's something off or something wrong with it, something not fitting you somehow, feeling like you don't belong to your own joy in a way. And having, creative projects even. But, Chiron is in the house of enjoyment of life, right? Natural skills and talents, enjoyment of life. And, you've been wounded, like you're not enjoying the ride. You may be successful, but you're not enjoying the ride somehow. And Mercury is trying to help resolve that for you. So take the stakes and dates of November 19th and December 2, December 31st. Keep a journal. See what happens. I kind of think this could be a fun class, actually, like a mini group I could put up. We're going to journal our way through this Chironic wound and see what we come up with and create a little group around it. And I think I might have fun with that for all of us. And if you've been disconnected to a child, especially an adult child, there's been a wound with that relationship. Mercury may be trying to turn it around, and it's your healing, but it's also you with the emails, phone calls, texts, you reaching out, you communicating, you changing your ideas about that relationship. That could be very big for some of you, for sure. That could be a huge shift for a lot of you. So, healing the unhealed wounds of children of your very own and some problem in that relationship. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising. This is a story that you went back. You want to go back in time, go back to November of 2020, 17 to January of 2018, when you had Mercury for 2 months moving through Sagittarius, it's back. It's subtle. It's so damn subtle. I want you guys to get a dream journal. I want you to start putting a notepad by your bed, because Mercury is the dream messenger, and he's in the dream, unconscious, sleepy time, quiet, cozy bed, 12th house. You of all people can go into trance states, shamanic journeys, or dream nocturnal dream insights. This is a transit that lasts for 2 months. Shamanic big dreams can come to you November the 2nd to January the 8th. The retrogradation can also have you travel to places and far off lands that you've been before. Again, if you're going to do any travel at all, that's to places from the past, so to speak, it may be between November 26th and December 16th. You might also find Mercury's transit through here is really, really good for meditation and deep soul work. Emails, phone calls, and text messages from people from foreign shores and lands, especially ones from the past, may emerge for you as well, especially around a commercial or marketing, mercantile opportunities. The chironic wound that's being healed here is, where do you belong? You're the outcast somehow. You're outcast from your home, your homeland, your hometown. You feel like you don't belong to your family of origin. You feel like you are the outsider and the black sheep, and you don't feel like you belong to a place. You haven't found your true place in this world. And you may have some childhood wounds you've been trying to work on healing ever since April of 2000. No, ever since it was February of 2019, when Chiron ingressed into Aries here. So this is your turnaround from that big blast of an eclipse on April the 18th. You are no longer not belonging. You're going to belong again. And you're going to feel like you belong wherever you are. Wherever you go, there you are. And there's some profound shift here. And that includes your family of origin and your home and your homeland and your childhood stuff. Big psychological, spiritual turning point in 4th and 12th houses, spiritual liberation and moksha houses. This is a soul work energy as well. The dates of November 19th and December 2nd and December 31st are the 3 passes of Mercury to Chiron. So take a notepad, get a journal, watch for your dreams on that time frame, look for your phone calls and emails, maybe from mom, dad, siblings, people you grew up with, hometown matters. These themes are rife. This is what you need to note. And these dates may again be about those messages you get at this time, not just through the normal means, but through your insights, imagination, downloads, and dreams. Okay, so let me know how it goes. I think I might put together a fun little week-long course or something with a bunch of folks to track this together, like a little mini club. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is fun. Here we go again. Mercury in our house of good spirit, which we normally don't mind. It's like, okay, more celebrity, more great gains from our career, more good fortune, more windfalls and pennies from heaven, more good things to do with our friends and friendship circles and social groups, and more good things that happen here to do with our long-range goals and plans for our life. Now, it's also the house of the sibling, one older than us. So if you want to go back to 2017 and you're going to go to November and then to 2018 December, you had this long stay of Mercury here. And what were you doing with social groups, social belonging, social influence, large groups of belonging, friendships and friendship circles? What things were happening for you? I launched my first ever online course that I got money for. And it was called the Miracle Lab. And it was funny. It was donation only. And I made $4,000. I almost fell off my seat. I'd never done anything like this before. I believe that was the year I did that. Or there was some online course I launched. So what did you do? Because social influence and large groups of friends and circles that you create around you are the 11th house. So you're going to do something similar. You're going to try something out here. I just talked about making a club. When Mercury is in his retrograde, right, when he goes backwards between November the 26th and December 16th, this classic friends from your past come out of the woodwork. Allies and benefactors that want to help you from your past will come to you. Phone calls, text messages, and emails. Opportunities for those people may emerge through those means. Mercury would have you revise your long-range goals and dreams and plans by coming up with new ideas as well. Now, the 3 passes of the chironic wound are November the 19th, December the 2nd, and December the 31st. Wowzer. So 3 times we'll have opportunity to really dive into and remedy a chironic wound around writing, a chironic wound around siblings and aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews and the sibling one younger, a chironic wound in the 3rd house around short distance travel. Boy, did I ever have that during the pandemic. Chiron's been here since 2019. Chironic wounds regarding your ideas or communication style, like social media platforms. I'm not complaining here on YouTube that I've done so well. I'm at 90,000 subscribers, but is there a chironic wound in the land of writing? Yes. I haven't been able to write since 2019. I've got a writer's block, but also a chironic wound for me around this is a platform that is content creator burnout guaranteed. You can just ask anybody who's done it. And I do think that with this is that wound is going to be healed. So I'll probably find some kind of modicum of solutions to the treadmill of content creation. Because when you don't content create, YouTube drops you like a hot potato. You cannot take a break. All right. Ask Astrology with Heather. Took 6 weeks off in July a year ago or a year and a half ago. Can't get her channel numbers back up. I've seen it happen to all the content creators. So where are you wounded? Not all about me. Where are you wounded, Aquarians? About writing, social media, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews. Neighbors and neighborhood. Oh my God, I'm making a laugh. My neighbor's really gnarly. She's a real biatch next door and she's always banging on my wall if I even breathe. So where are you wounded here? Because the wound wants to heal. And on November 19th, December 2nd, and December 31st, 3 parts to heal it. I'm going to put a club together for this. We're going to have fun with doing this together. A cheapie too, like join for $10 or something. And I would, or donation only. That was fun last time. And the other thing I want to say with Chiron in this place, it may not be your wound. It is the house of the sibling one younger than you. And so they may be going through a bit of a time and your Mercury may be supporting them. You may become somehow enmeshed in their chironic wound story and be in a mode of ally or benefactor or participating in helping that sibling one younger than you come to terms with something and to heal it. That's a possibility as well. But it is the house of a younger sibling, one younger, where this wound is, and their own lives and their wounds are maybe very much on your radar. And look for those dates, November 19th, December 2nd, and December the 31st. Alrighty? Finally, and we're moving on to Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. It's a sky that simply tells me this. Are you ready? You are going to go through a Mercury 10th house cycle that you saw in 2017, November to 2018. Don't forget to buy my All Signs Bundle 2025 package, pre-sale price, available to November the 15th. I forgot to advertise in the beginning. Delivered to your inbox November 17th as my fundraiser. So Pisces, you love charity, so help me out. Mercury in your 10th house is all about that career and reputation story. Now, it's not just your career. It can be your social status, married, divorced, widowed, and announcements thereof, weddings, all that stuff. It can also be about your, your work and your career itself and what you want to do up there. Mercury's negotiations and contracts and agreements. So you might be renegotiating work situation agreements, etc., or making announcements to the world about your work, about your social status and social standing. So go back to 2017. November 2018, January, you went through an elemental fire 2-month stay of Mercury here back then within the bounds of Sagittarius. The retrograde is going to happen on November the 26th through to January 16th, and that could indicate bosses, colleagues, coworkers, people you've known in past work situations reaching out to you. Through phone calls and emails, etc. So pay attention for that. But it's a chironic healing that we want to focus on here today. Mercury is trining Chiron in your 2nd house, your 2nd house of money, possessions, and earnings. Mercury in the house of work and career. He's a negotiator. You may pay attention to new job opportunities or old job opportunities from the past returning to you. This is going to be acute. November 19th, December 2nd, and December 31st. You see, you've had a chironic wound in self-worth, self-esteem, perhaps. It kind of like more like how you value yourself, your own self-worth. But it's also money, it's also possessions, it's also savings, it's also earnings, it's also food style and how you think about and feel about your face. And you may have been feeling wounded about all of these themes since 2019 February, when Chiron entered this part of your sky. But it's getting ready to end from that April 8th eclipse, total solar eclipse, 19 degrees of Aries. Chiron still there. And this is going to be important. And if you have a chironic wound about money, it's going to be healed through the earnings, through the career and reputation path. It's not going to be like a windfall into your inbox, as far as I can tell. It looks more like work stuff because Mercury's in the 10th house of reputation and career. But if your reputation is stalled out for some reason, you might be healing a chironic reputation wound because you can't stop drinking alcohol and everyone at work thinks you're a drunk. Like, you got to figure it out, because something to do with what you put in your nose, your mouth, your facial appearance, your money, your earnings, your resources and possessions has been wounded. And Mercury's saying, but we're going to heal it in the visible part of the sky where everyone can notice it. Right? Everyone's going to say, wow, look at that. Look at that Pisces person. They got their act together. Woo. And the 10th house is a house of weddings. Possibly there'll be an announcement that you're retracting a wedding. In other words, announcing to the world that you're going to get divorced. Okay. How does that heal your chironic wound? You're going to have half the money that you and your spouse share. I'm making stuff up. Only you know the answer. So thanks for listening. Don't forget, everybody, to grab that like and subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the notifications. This is going to be out on Sunday, the 3rd of November. It's being recorded for Patreon Thursday, October 31st. I might be delivering it to them on November 1st for reasons I can't tell you. I have to edit out a blooper in the beginning of this video. I make bloopers all the time. And if I leave a blooper in, then I get really hounded. Someone told me I'm a senile Biden. Like, people get a grip, go away, just go away. I'm putting so much content. Okay. I'm not complaining, but yes, sometimes my mind isn't always fully present and I will have a mistake. And this one I'm editing it out because I can't deal with the trolls. All right. Have a wonderful Halloween. That's tonight. Have a wonderful Mercury and Sagittarius for 2 months transit. Bye-bye, everyone.